like to call the Tuesday, July 26th, Quarry Monitoring Committee to order. Regular, take the roll.
Yep. Alderman Barber.
Here.
Alderwoman Kristen Woolham.
Here.
Member Marich.
Here.
Member Tenhaken.
Here.
Member Pins.
Here.
And Member Swanson.
Here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes if there's not any corrections to the minutes as they were in the packet.
I'll move it.
Just remember to press the, not press the button.
So
Yeah.
we are turning these on.
Yeah.
I move it.
Oh. Oh.
Okay, so moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Citizens' comment period. Are there any citizens wishing to speak at this time? Oh, heck, I was going to give you 5 minutes this time. Okay, seeing no citizens stand up, I'll close the session for the citizens' comment period. There are no hearings. Session for the citizens' comment period. There are no hearings, so we'll move on right to item 5, which is business. The first one is a Quarry presentation by Stantec Consulting Services.
Because that's
Okay.
where most of the information is most readily apparent as to what's going on. During the second quarter of this year, which is April, May, and June, we did 4 observation events, 1 per month of the unannounced inspections where we go around the perimeter of the quarry, and 1 was an announced inspection where I went into the quarry with Clint to see present operations and see how things are progressing. As typical, a little bit of dust on Rawson Avenue, but the street sweepers were out and appeared to be doing what they were supposed to be doing. In terms of the seismic monitoring, there were a total of 18 blast events in the second quarter. Our meters picked up 17 of those 18, which is kind of typical, just based on the locations. We're not going to pick up everything because our meters are located further south. So if there's anything in the farther north area, we may not pick those up. All the blasts were below the PDD limit, and all of the blasts this quarter were also below the PDD limits for the air overpressure. We did have 1 blast earlier in the year where there were over the 123 decibel overpressure, but year to date we're at 97% compliance with that. 123 decibel limit, and the PDD requires it to be at 85%. So they're well within the limits on that. This quarter, we 1 informal complaint, and 1 of the formal complaints was an anonymous complaint. So per the direction from Regulo and direction of the Common Council, we have language in the report now stating that we're not releasing the address as a part of this report, but it can be made available to the public upon request. This quarter, we're regarding vibration. And one of the things that I think we tend to look at is how many households are complaining multiple times. Of the 6 complaints, 1 was anonymous. We can't verify if they complained more than once. one complaint was anonymous. We can't verify if they complained more than once. One complained once, and 2 houses complained 2 times each. The locations of the blasts were a little different this quarter, so I'll show you a little bit about that on the map in just a moment. But we were having blasts further north in the quarry this time. That were resulting in complaints. Generally and historically, it's been further south blasts that are causing complaints. 2 blasts had 1 complaint each, 2 blasts had 2 complaints, so these are relatively standpoint too. The locations, like I stated, are a little different. 2 of them in the northeastern portion of the quarry resulted in complaints. One of those complaints was from a resident on the northeast part of the quarry, though, too. And I will just go down to the map. And as you can see, we had the orange dot up here, resulting from the blast here on the far edge of northeastern edge of the quarry. And then we had 2 blasts up here, the blue one and the aqua one, did result in complaints from the south of Drexel Avenue, which is a little more unusual. And 1 blast in the southern portion of the quarry had the 2 complaints south of Drexel. So the locations are a little different than had been typical, but still a small number of complaints.
Coming this way. The red dot, that generated no complaints?
All the pink dots in here generated no complaints.
Okay.
There is the orange dot was for that complaint. Most of the blasts during this quarter were in the northern part of the quarry.
And we aren't plotting the complaints then, or are we?
The complaints are, yes, so.
We aren't giving addresses.
The complaints are, yes, so.
We aren't giving addresses.
We aren't giving addresses. I wasn't able to plot the one that was an anonymous complaint.
Okay.
For the ones that did provide that information for their complaint, we put a triangle in the general location
Okay.
of that of the complainant, just so we can kind of get an idea. Is it due west of the quarry, due west of that blast?
Yeah. That's good to know. To just
Yeah.
generalize
So we tried
area.
correlating them so you can see it.
Between the decibel readings and vibration measurements to the complaints.
I know. Some of them, like the one that we had last quarter that had the air overpressure above the PDD, there were no complaints on that one at all. So I think a lot of it is location of the blast, but this quarter it's different. We did have some complaints south of Drexel from northern quarry blast, which is a little different than normal.
Okay, this may be a silly question, but do we know if the people that made the complaints have early notification as to, like we do, as to the blasts?
Complained this quarter are on the pre-blast notification list.
I just second, for the record, Chair, could you have her put her name, because no one's going to know who she is.
Yep. Hi. Brianna Buckholtz, Payne and Dolan, Land Resources Administrator.
Okay, so in other words, the levels were low from the readings, but that a complaint came out of this. It's interesting. Thank you.
I have a question.
Your microphone, Chris.
I pushed the button. Okay.
You're ready.
So Kristen, the one that was actually in my district on Minnesota, are they actually registered? Because I've never seen them complain up there, registered? Because I've never seen them complain up there before.
I don't know, I do not know if they're registered to receive pre-blast notifications.
Because what I just heard was everybody that complained was registered, so
I don't have that list available. I've never seen it. I don't have that list available. I've never seen it.
Okay.
Is this on? I said I believe everyone that I saw that complained is on the list, but I can double check that easily.
To me, I don't think there's a big correlation just because you get noting, but, because I know a lot of people are on the list.
Yeah, I think we're up to 52 already.
Right, so
Yep.
if it was the case that it was just a notification time to complain, you'd have more like 52 complaints, so, yeah.
Or not.
It's been my experience.
Go.
It's been my experience that now that I am on the notification list, that if I am in the house and know that you normally blast about noon, I will notice it more, but they've been very mild anyway. Every one that I've been, outside, it's hardly noticeable at all in my experience. It's just been like a non-event, like, oh, somebody dropped a rock someplace.
Any other comments relative to this report?
Yeah, I have one. So
Go
this doesn't show where they're gonna start, they've already started out blasting on the southern part, really far south this next time, is that right?
I don't know where they start. I get the blast reports on a monthly basis with the locations, so I have not seen July's report yet. The locations, so I have not seen July's report yet.
Okay. I thought I read something or got an email that said they were gonna start going further down. Was that?
That was July 21st.
And it was just
Okay.
one blast that they announced
The south
because of
end, yeah.
because it was on the
Correct.
southwest side there.
But it's not including this report.
Because it was on the southwest
Correct.
side there.
But it's not including this report because this
Okay.
is from April
All
to
right.
June.
That'll be interesting
Yes.
to see how
See.
that one is really, because that will probably be one of the closer ones.
One of the further south, yeah.
Yeah.
I know Clint said, work is going to be continuing in that central part and the southern part, because that's where, and the southern part, because that's where the
Where
available
the
stuff.
rock is, yeah. Right.
And it's, it's
probably that.
nothing new, no news to you that that's where the
Right.
work is going to be occurring, so.
Great.
Any other questions or comments on this report? Anybody want to vote to put it on file?
I'll motion.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to put this on file. And we'll leave it at that at this point. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, item B, review and discussion on matters pertaining to citizen complaints, blasting data from Payne and Dolan, and that would be you at this point. So if you want to come up or go to the mic, either way, anything you'd like to do on the report from Payne and Dolan.
Questions? I can go over the biannual report with you as well.
Anybody have any questions of Payne and Dolan after hearing the Stantec report?
Question from Dina Swanson. Is there ever damage at all to people's properties? Do you complain about that?
People do complain about the damage to property. I don't believe it's ever been confirmed that it's due to our blasting, but I don't have as much history on the site as Clint does, so that's something I would have to get back to you on. Or our blasting managers, Quentin and Derek, too. Our blasting managers, Quentin and Derek, too.
I have a question or maybe more a comment. There was one event, I think it was at the very end of May or the beginning of June, that there was a blast notification, and so I was kind of listening. There was a blast notification, and so I was kind of listening and seeing what it was like, and the vibration and the noise from the actual blast was like nominal, but it sounded like some huge piece of equipment dropped or fell, like a major conveyor belt, or like the big blue crane falling on Miller Stadium, you know, when they were building it. It was like a crashing noise, and I went, oh, something happened. But,
Oh, so the vibrations weren't matching up with what you were hearing.
yeah, it wasn't like a blast vibration or noise that we normally would hear, the soft muffled, and then the major piece of equipment fell someplace.
I'm not aware of any falling equipment.
You would know if they were.
I would, yes.
Okay.
Question?
Go ahead.
Alderman Wilhelm. On the report, you have the page that accepted, and does that get sent to the DNR?
It got approved by Common Council in the fall. I believe it was sent to the DNR. I'm not sure how that process works. Clint usually takes care of that. But it was approved by Common Council, and as part of that, we did update our reclamation bond with the City of Franklin. So that was updated from $400,000 to about $670,000 with our reclamation bond.
And is there a way to show an overlay from the extraction limits from one year to the next? Because the map on page 4 is pretty dark. It's hard to even see the outlines. And then on the map on page 3 has the extraction limit lines from 2022. It would be kind of nice to see an overlay and how much progress.
Oh, just like a progression photos?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah,
It's not part of our report, but I can make that for you.
Yeah, because, you know, a lot of times we get, you know, well, how much are they doing a year? Well, we don't know. But that would really easy answer. We could just say, well, here's a photo. It shows you.
Yeah, we we have planes fly. We have planes fly over our site every year taking updated aerial photos just for our records. So we can make progression photos for you, definitely.
Great.
Is most of the movement downward as opposed to laterally?
Ooh, that's a good question that I do not know.
Probably some of it, yeah.
That's a good question that I do not know.
Probably some of it, yeah.
I'd probably like to know how much deeper it is or how deep it is right now, and then maybe in areas how deep it's getting. You know,
Like,
that's just an aside.
yeah, just curious, like what the floor elevation is. Yeah.
Just a curiosity is more. I mean, we don't monitor that, but
Yeah.
curiosity.
We have the data.
It kind of goes to the question of, you know, how long before we get to this reclamation plan, you know, as to how much rock is being quarried and how.
I'm sure Clint has said that exact sentence here before. Depends
far-
on the market and what we
How far
find.
is China?
Quite a ways.
Quite ways. We got a ways to go to get.
Yeah.
get that far. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions for Payne and Dolan? Hey, any other questions for Payne and Dolan before we move on? Thank you for the report.
Yep.
Both of you.
Thank you.
Helps us keep on track with it all, so.
Just
It's good news.
sorry, just a regular, just a side comment. The biannual report will be also presented to the Plan Commission on August 4th. The biannual report will be also presented to the Plan Commission on August 4th.
August 4th, okay. Item D in this, or the biennial report, that's C, that's what you just reported, right?
Correct. Yeah,
So-
that's your report.
C is the 2021 biannual report by Payne and Dolan. C is the 2021 biannual report by Payne and Dolan, so that's what you're going to take to the Plan Commission.
Correct.
Okay. So that takes care of that, and we can move to item D? Or is there any discussion on that item from the committee? No. Hearing none, we'll move on to item. That's a carryover from the last meeting where there was some discussion, and I initiated some inquiry. I'm thinking right now, I've got to call into Jesse and I've got to call into Sandy about how the Park Commission handles theirs. Maybe Regulo knows that at this point. I'm thinking that we could have like maybe an August meeting that would start off here and then just go to the Quarry, so it's an announced meeting as such. I'm not sure how that works. Do we go through a meeting and then adjourn and then go as a group and take the tour? Would that have to be an announcement that's made for Botke purposes? And I don't know how the Park Commission does it, but we're looking at a model, something like that, where this would probably be just the agenda item for August to take a little tour and starting maybe a little earlier, a little later, so that people can attend it.
Well, I have some information on that. Just a meeting that's set up and they do post it, and you're correct that they do put the bad key notice.
Okay.
And they make sure and have it, posted, and typically there's only been maybe every once in a while there would be a citizen come. So I think the bigger thing is accommodating how do we get, when you go to a park, there's lots of room for everybody to go, but when you're got to have them take you into the pit, I've always done more of a one-on-one, and I know they have done like a busload, so now we're talking about if we don't know how many people are going to come, how do you tell them granted, I don't think anybody else is going to come, but how do you say, okay, well, now you have to have more than one bus, so you'll have to work that out with Payne and Dolan on how they would move people if we had more than this amount of people that would come. And then the other, if we had more than this amount of people that would come. And then the other comment I have is I thought we had went to every other month.
Bi-monthly, yeah.
So if we
Yeah,
do
I
one
was-
in August, then it would kind of throw us off. And then the committee was, we might have citizens say, oh, well, you met off-site and you purposely did. Have citizens say, oh, well, you met off-site and you purposely did it in a month when you said you weren't going to. So I would kind of maybe caution just to try to scan the schedule that we finally kind of come to and maybe have it in September.
I have no problem. My thought on it was that it would be a meeting just focusing on that might be presented in September. I realized that we did talk about the every other month. So, my idea is, first of all, like how many people would be interested in doing that kind of a joint tour, say 6 o'clock on a Tuesday night, the third or the fourth Tuesday of a month, whatever.
I would like to.
I've already done the tour.
I know, and I have
Yeah,
too, but
so-
I'd like to hear it all again and be with the new members, and bond, and
I would also be interested, there you go. I would also be interested to see physically where the monitoring is and being shown that. I mean, when we're talking in, okay, well, hey, there's a bathroom that's 2 doors down to the right. This way we know what the monitoring equipment is and are aware of what it looks like
I'm sure Payne and Dolan could show us theirs along the way.
aware of what it looks like
I'm sure Payne and Dolan could show us theirs along the way, or let us know that as well. Okay, can I just take it that is everybody consensus forming on September? Looking for the September meeting to do this? In September?
In September, because third quarter ends at the end of September.
Okay, so that wouldn't be part of the general meeting at that point.
I would not be part of the general meeting.
Okay. So if I have your permission, I can get a hold of Clint and you, and we can work something out for the timing and do you have a van? Do you have a van? Does Payne Dolan have a van that can take us down in as a group, or?
We do have a van. It would fit 6 people
Okay.
plus a driver. But are you thinking of like inviting, does the public have to be invited? Are you thinking of like inviting, does the public have to be invited? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah.
So we would probably have to get like a school bus just in case, because if one extra person came, then we wouldn't be able to fit.
Well, let's kind of coordinate that.
Okay.
And we've got 2 months to put that all together, but we're going to look at the September.
Okay.
And we've got 2 months to put that all together, but we're going to look at the September meeting for this. So I don't know. We'll coordinate what kind of transportation we might need at that point.
Okay.
See if there's some extra dollar to rent a van if we have to or something.
Yeah.
Who's going to show up for
Right.
that meeting, you know? That was the last hearing.
Oh, I
so-
didn't think about that. That's a good point.
So, okay, we will carry that over till, I will notify everybody as this comes together. And we'll send out a notice, probably at the end of August now, confirming that with everybody, so that's the tentative September meeting, so. Any other discussion on that item? Okay, moving on to item E, informational session about Plan Development Districts 23 and 24 and other quarry policies. I asked that that be put on there because we have new people, and we asked that that be put on there because we have new people, and we've never had kind of an open-air discussion on the origin of the policies, where the policies are, what they stated, and I know you've gotten that as reading material to kind of stay up late at night and have fun with, and, you know. So when you're up late at night and have fun with, and, you know. So when you're not watching baseball or whatever, trips your trigger there. But anyway, if there's any discussion, I'd like to have it, and it's relative to what big policies do exist and what stems, where they came from possibly, or for us to be on the same page with our understanding of these kind of things. So if anybody's got any questions about it or has anything that, after reading the materials, which I know I've done 3 times since the last meeting, then we can ask questions about it.
Well, I have one question, and that is, how is responses or information stemming out of complaints or coming out of this committee, how is it communicated to the residents that surround the area? Obviously, like I said, we've had a number of complaints, but we don't know what those complaints are. In addition, you've got a brand new sub about that. One of them is, are the people that are moving into that new subdivision, are they aware of the blasting and how often the blasting is? Is this something that the developer communicates to them when they're purchasing, or does that not come under the purview of this community? We deal nothing with that.
I can.
If you can address it.
Go ahead.
Well, as far as, they were supposed to put on the plat, and I know I saw it on there, that quarrying activities was there. So that was like an early on thing, that was a heads up. Whether everybody gets that or not is another story,
Well,
but yeah.
I do recall at some past council meetings where a subdivision or an area complains, well, the city never told me that this was happening. We never knew this. I knew.
You know the stock.
We never knew this.
You know the stock answer is buyer beware. So that's.
Well, yeah. Let's put it this way. I had no idea when I purchased my house that the farm field behind me was going to be developed until there was a council meeting, and I was notified of it, that there was a council meeting and this was going to happen, and I could make a comment. Now, pretty much what you just said is correct. I was told, well, you have to expect something to happen there. Well, great, but again, in multiple situations there, I've heard, well, you never told me there was going to be a berm there. You never told me this or that. So in other words, and that's why I'm asking this question, we're pretty much here to deal with the facts that we're given, and that's it. Okay. Got it.
The buyer beware plays into it, but I'm thinking that if they can see a berm right at some point, the onus and what we have here to work with right now, as of right now, doesn't indicate that we would have to give notification. It would be up to the developer, and I think we can fairly assume that if we make sure that it's part of the plat for any other future development, then at least it's there. That would be a circumstance that they could readily identify, as well as seeing a berm and a painted Dolan sign and a sign.
And now we have Google Earth.
We have
So,
what?
Google Earth. Everybody Googles now, so.
Oh,
We didn't, previously, that wasn't available to people to see what was back there, and what was,
Yeah, now you can get a satellite view and
Right.
what's the sandbox over here? you know?
Exactly, and
It's-
see the next door neighbor's bouncy house and whatever.
and that they could go out and look at, like I said, GPS at any point and see it. If they're buying a house, I mean, GPS at any point and see it. If they're buying a house, I mean, I would probably know that they would want to see the GPS now at this point as far as the survey and go see what's around me. And that's really available on our website. We could maybe make a note on the Quarry that this is available. We could maybe make a note on the Quarry that this is available for viewing where the Quarry operations actually are, but I don't know if that would be an onus that we'd have to do. But one point you did make earlier is about the complaints that come in. You mentioned two things, I think, at this point. Come in. You mentioned two things, I think, at this point. One of them had to do with, do we respond to the complaints that we receive?
Right.
Yes,
And there's no onus to do that at this point. It's not within our PDD that we would respond to complaints in any way. I mean, I'm thinking just off the top of my head that maybe if we did get a formal complaint and we did have the address, or the email, we could respond saying specifically what the numbers were on that day. If we get 6 complaints, that's something that would be easily communicated back, and to respond to what your first part of that question was.
Well, I find it interesting that we do have a report that says, okay, there were 9 complaints. Okay, that's great. What were the complaints?
well, they're either blast or dust or air. I mean, either blast or dust or air. I mean,
Noise,
Right.
vibration, dust are the
that's
top
what they're.
three, with vibration being the vast majority.
All right.
And we would have to put that in as an option to the operational side, not necessarily the PDDs, but the way this committee operates, or the guidance, the bylaw, or the charter for the committee itself. So I don't know if we want to go ahead and do that, but that might be a discussion point for our next meeting as well.
Well, we're pretty much held to the PDDs, and the PDDs, if they're in those levels, there's not much we can do about it.
Well, no, but we could do a communication. I'm thinking that if we get a complaint, we can let them know what the numbers were that day to show that they weren't, that there wasn't, that the quarry wasn't compliant. There wasn't, that the quarry was in compliance.
Sure. In the complaint form, there's a checkbox where the complainant may opt to be contacted by the city staff. So if they
Okay.
check that box, then we call the complainant and let them know what were the levels of that box. Then we call the complainant and let them know what were the levels of that last event.
And that's
We normally do that.
Oh, okay.
Some complainants decide not to be contacted and they didn't check that box, so then we don't call back. But that's up to the complainant.
Okay.
Check yes or no. If they want to be contacted by city staff, yeah.
Relative to that day or that complaint, they couldn't check that. Okay.
Well, that's good, because nothing worse than feeling like you're being ignored by the city or something, really. So, yeah, like, if somebody had once mentioned to me in my neighborhood that, I made I didn't know that there was a form for checking, do you want to be contacted? And if they said no or didn't check the box, then, yeah.
That
Yeah.
is something that the new members of the committee, or those that haven't, on the city's website, there's a wealth of quarry information, and we had a council motion to have sections of that updated 2 years or 3 years ago, but that never took place. No one ever did it.
No, we did.
You did do it?
Yeah.
Based on that sheet of paper we had, where that
Yeah,
went to
we even-
based on that sheet of paper we had, where that
Yeah,
went to
we even
council on that?
uploaded the reclamation plan that is available now in the website.
I thought there was sections that were going to be rewritten by Mark Roberta at that time, and then he left. That's what I recall from Don, because.
Yeah, that part I don't know, but I remember that we made some updates to the
Right.
website,
But
to the
anyway,
informational site.
Regardless, there is a lot of information, and maybe this committee might have suggestions. So if you go on and you read it and something's not clear, and you say, bring it in, have Alderman Barber put that on the agenda, and we can review that again. It's always good, new information, new ideas.
Not too many. No, that's why I wanted to have this. It's just like, it's time for us to talk within, we're not establishing any policy here at this point. We're just more or less talking about ideas and sharing. It's like a committee of the whole kind of thing, informally at this point right here within our meeting, to just say that this is something that like if you're wide awake at night and just thinking of the quarry and
that has a place on the meetings for.
I'm all for it just being a standing kind of a discussion.
Right.
And maybe add website.
A website to that.
That's a great idea.
And the complaint form.
Okay.
So. Okay, anything else in this area that we'd like to at least, that spark somebody's curiosity?
You talking about the PDDs, 23 and 24, on that topic?
Pardon me?
Are you talking about regarding the PDD, 23, 24?
I do have a question.
Regarding the PDD, 23, 24?
I do have a question.
Or
That is, yeah.
Oh, okay.
If you have a question about that, this is what it's designed for.
Well, one thing, when my wife and I moved here in 93, 92, when my wife and I moved here in 93, 92, actually, in 93, we bought the house just to the east of the quarry, one block off. Our real estate agent was telling us that there's a quarry here and everything, and you'll notice it and that kind of thing, but the long range, and I thought I remembered reading in the information on the PDDs that it was really more just that a painted dome will be responsible for bringing the land level, taking down the berms, bringing the land level back, and a trail around the forthcoming lake, but not really
Well, there's a full reclamation plan that was what we were just talking about earlier, that the DNR approved, and so it's pretty big.
The city.
Right, the city approved, so the DNR, it was a requirement.
And we're going to see that next month.
I think it's like 23 pages or more, isn't it? It's pretty extensive.
Yeah, it's about that, and it has all maps and documents and sections of the quarry and the quarry lake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe
And that is available on the website.
Right, that's.
Okay, I'll have to look at that. I confess I have not looked at the
Plan that there is, within a series, a set period of time after the quarry is no longer functional. Who makes those determinations, I should say, I would guess, and then how long they have at that point to.
Plan Commission has a lot of authority over the PDD.
Okay.
Of course, then the council, but also the DNR, states when they have to pull the trigger on.
It is somewhat specific as to once they stop, they have to start. I read that once they stop doing it, and that once they stop doing it and declare that it's no longer going to be mine, then they've got to start the reclamation plan.
And there is specific saying, this is what we mean by stop, I would assume.
Every year, they have to put in how many acres into the DNR. That's part of that report that goes in every year. And so, that's part of that report that goes in every year. And so, obviously, if it's zero,
Right.
you're going to go, okay, well, now it's time. But one of the questions I had a long time ago, Ed, maybe you remember this, there was a well, some kind of guarantee. There was a well, some kind of guarantee about wells and other things,
Yep.
but I
guaranteed
think you
property
had
value.
so many years to do that, and then it just kind of went away. Was it like a 10-year?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
It was offered to me also, in the night, Dolan there's a lot of discussion about guaranteed property values. You know, my property value is going to be declining due to the fact that there's a quarry. Well, and it was offered to us that we would be guaranteed our property values on the sale of the home and information. My impression is, my feeling was that be signing off on any power of anything in the future if I agreed to take that package deal at the time, and so we didn't. But other neighbors had signed up for it, you know.
I was one of those who did sign, and it expired and it went away. That's just kind of what happened with it.
It wasn't like 10 years or something?
Yeah, it was only a
Oh, was
10-year.
it? It was only
And that was an agreement between the city and the quarry for when they closed down, when Payne-Dolan, I think, bought the other quarry and they were expanding their territory. It was a joint agreement, bought the other quarry and they were expanding their territory. It was a joint agreement between the city to put that in place for 10 years in order for them to get something in return, like the limits coming back or setbacks or something like that at that point.
Oh, okay.
But that was approximately 25 years ago,
Yeah.
27 years ago that actually, because it was right when we moved in, so.
Right, and isn't there right now, from what I've read, information, pretty much the estimated reclamation point in time was somewhere around 2050? 2050? Did I read that correctly?
We've tried to pin that down, but
Right, exactly.
It's like, it'll be 40 years, but that was how many years
Well,
It was,
And she answered the question sort of, it's all dependent on how.
realistically, it is dependent upon business, yes.
Yeah,
and it's their call,
So in other words, dependent upon business, yes.
yeah.
and it's their call.
So in other words, 2050 was just a pie in the sky date.
Hypothetical.
Well, keep
Hypothetical.
in mind that at some point, the berm that's there now was actually on top of the rock, and when they, berm that's there now was actually on top of the rock, and when they allowed them to move the berm outside of the PDD line, all that rock became available. So that added a lot more years onto it, and that wasn't that long ago.
So realistically, none of us will be around. It wasn't like, unless it ends up like what Lannon Park in Menominee Falls, where they struck a water vein and filled up the quarry. So
Well, that was going to be my next question.
Okay.
So where exactly would the water come from to fill that large?
Natural fill. Rain,
Well, yeah, that is included in the reclamation plan, so they did some groundwater analysis.
yeah.
So they currently have pumps to keep the water out, so if they remove the pumps,
Turn it off and
Yeah.
it just fills up.
It would fill up.
It would take years,
Yeah, I remember at one point,
take years.
I remember at one point, the former engineer, Jack Bennett, said that that's gonna take way too long to fill up. He didn't agree with it, and there was a lot of,
Add another 50 years to that.
well, right. If I recall correctly, Lannon Quarry around Menominee Falls, Lannon Quarry around Menominee Falls, they actually had equipment under the water because they had to, it was that quickly that they had to get out of there because they hit a spring and filled it up.
The warmer summers, who knows? It's like I think you mentioned, it's well beyond our lifetime, and it might be 3 of my lifetimes, I don't know.
that's why it's important to update that reclamation plan every 5 years.
Because I'm going to be here at least 5.
Yeah, right.
I want to be available for that. Okay, I will close this unless there's something else that's pressing that people would like to at least put on the table and talk about or have any questions. Going once, going once, going twice,
I'll move to adjourn.
held over till the next meeting.
Oh,
Move
you
to
did.
adjourn,
I second.
or the meeting schedule then would be September.
Yes.
Yes, we'll coordinate the date with
Okay.
Clint.
There's
Aye.
It's not debatable.
adjourn.